We have David Schoen, criminal civil liberties attorney, also Sara Carter, SaraACarter.com, investigative reporter, Fox News contributor. Let's go into your story, Sara, about this coordination with Mueller and Comey. Pretty jarring.
It is pretty jarring, and there had been suspicions about this last year in June. Actually, Fox News was the first to report that there may have been some coordination here, and now there's actual proof based on these emails. And, everything, Sean, that everyone's had to do to try to get documentation has been crazy. I mean, they've had to wait months, weeks, a year, for documentation to come out. And now Judicial Watch was able to obtain, through FOIA, through the Freedom of Information Act request, these emails that show that Comey was coordinating with Mueller on his testimony, that he was waiting to talk to Mueller before he would give a go-ahead on his testimony to the Senate Intelligence Committee. And I think that's vitally important because, as you well pointed out, Comey and Mueller are very close. The whole reason for Comey to leak his memorandums to the New York Times, professor friend, who then leaked it to the New York Times with his permission, the whole reason for that was to call for a special counsel. And so if there's any conflicts here, the conflicts appear to be all on this Mueller, Comey, Rod Rosenstein, Jeannie Ray, all of the people that are working for him, and we just keep finding more and more information out, and this coordination appears to be problematic.
Let me go to the legal aspects of this, David Schoen, beyond the simple and obvious coordination, and I'll even use the word collusion in a way, but maybe not legally speaking. Do you see anything legally problematic with what Sara's reporting?
Sure. Legally, ethically, and otherwise, on a gut level and every other level. Look, at the time this occurred, even though they refer to Mr. Comey as director still, he was no longer the director of the FBI. How is the former director of the FBI setting up meetings with the Office of General Counsel of the FBI before his testimony? If he had a question about a certain disclosure or privilege, the appropriate course of action would be for his attorney, Comey's attorney, not Comey, to contact the OGC at the FBI and discuss those specific questions, not the substance of testimony. Look, the vice president said it. Enough is enough. How on earth can the American people have any confidence that the special counsel investigation is above board and has any integrity, especially an investigation of their duly elected president? Enough is enough. With these personalities and these conflicts and this operation behind the scenes of people getting stories together and presenting a particular agenda, it's inappropriate. I want to make one last point on this. Remember, back up a step. The special counsel was appointed based on a finding under 600.1 that there's a conflict for the Department of Justice or any U.S. Attorney's Office to be involved with this. Who on earth is monitoring who's speaking to whom? Why is the special counsel cooperating, coordinating with DOJ, and now Mr. Comey a witness in the question? I take exception to a comment I read from Judge Napolitano in which he said it's normal because this is a star witness for Mr. Mueller. Comey is not to be a star witness for Mr. Mueller. He's a former public servant questioned to give the truth before Senate and House committees.
Do you feel, as an attorney who knows the law well, do you suspect and feel like others, including Greg Jarrett and many others actually, that the release of that privileged information and government information was in and of itself a crime when he gave it to three people, and then under oath, of course, he only acknowledged one of the three? I think you could make an argument about lying on omission here. And, of course, I do think, and we'll watch the Inspector General report, Comey's preparing different variations of the exoneration of Hillary before he ever interviewed her, or the 17 other witnesses. That sounds like obstruction, or at least a possibility. It has to be looked into, doesn't it?
Well, look, it has to be looked into, but you've also hit on one of the key points. Comey's statements about what he did with these documents is a key to determining whether there was a crime. The nature of the documents may well determine whether there was a crime. At a minimum, and I'm hoping we see this at a minimum from the IG's report, it would appear to be a gross breach of his employment agreement, the oath of office that he took, etc. And especially here, what's most distressing about it is he has an admitted agenda to circumvent the channels, an agenda to bring private information for the specific purpose of making it public and having a special counsel appointed. That's not his role.
That's pretty amazing. Sarah, let me go back to some other issues here involving not just Comey, but the other issue we've been following, and that is it seems that Devin Nunes, the Freedom Caucus, the other committee chairmen, such as Goodlatte, Trey Gowdy, have had it, and they're now actively considering contempt of Congress as it relates to Rod Rosenstein and Jeff Sessions. I know there was a meeting today with Trey Gowdy and Devin Nunes, and I believe Rod Rosenstein. What has come out of that? Because they have been slow walking. They've been claiming redactions in the name of national security that have been proven false. It had nothing to do with national security, and they just completely ignore, miss deadlines constantly.
It's incredible, and a lot of the stories that are out there are actually inaccurate. You know, they have been fighting tooth and nail, and they went down. They're there today to meet with the Attorney General and Rod Rosenstein, the Assistant Attorney General, in discussions to view what is highly classified information that they have requested for some time now, which, of course, they've been stonewalled over and over again. They will have, and they do, and I can correct the record because yesterday there were a lot of stories saying that the White House was siding with the DOJ on this. I spoke to people on the Hill today that wanted to correct that record, and also with other sources that said the White House was not siding with the DOJ on this, that the White House offered the DOJ another alternative for the congressional members to actually view the information that they had requested. Whether that's in camera at the DOJ or someplace else. So they are offering the Congress the opportunity to view those documents. And that is going to be very important. It may not be information that the public, though, will be made aware of because of the classified nature of the information. But as you know, Sean, before, there were all these arguments that certain documents should not be made public, that the Russia report contained highly classified national security information. And finally, when it was overridden, actually overridden by the White House, there was information that was discovered. What we found was that there was nothing in there that would threaten national security. So this is very, very important. There is a debate going on right now. They are working through this, and we should be getting more information by tonight as to what they were allowed to view and what they were allowed to see.
What about the polls now showing that Americans now see that Robert Mueller's investigation is politically driven? If you couple that with Judge Ellis's powerful comments on Friday in the Manafort case, where he rightly pointed out that the 2005 to 2007 tax issue involving the Ukraine had nothing to do with 2016 Trump a Russia collusion of any kind, and that this was to put the screws on Manafort and to pressure Manafort and to get him to sing so they could prosecute or impeach Donald Trump. What does this all now mean for Mueller, David Schoen?
Well, the Judge Ellis statement speaks volumes and volumes and volumes because he's not a part of the political process. He's a judge, a tough judge, a no-nonsense judge. He's the same judge who set a very high bail for Mr. Manafort, found him to be a flight risk. He's had enough. He's calling him out on it, much like perhaps the letter from the FISA court in response to a letter from Congress may have been showing some frustration by that court. Look, and the other factor, by the way, that you didn't add in this conversation that you were on top of from the beginning about American public and the Mueller investigation is the makeup of the Mueller team. You tell any fair American citizen who's on that team what their background is, what their agenda was, who they contribute to, etc. As you pointed out on your show from day one, and Sarah Carter has written about, no American would think that's fair if they look at it objectively. No.
We'll take a quick break. More with David Schoen, Sarah Carter on the other side. We'll talk about that other ruling that came from another judge this past Saturday when we get back. And as we continue with attorney David Schoen, investigative reporter Sarah Carter, you know, you mentioned something in passing, David, and I'll throw it to Sarah first here. On Saturday night, the judge in the case of these 13, the indictment that came down as it relates to 13 Russian troll farms. Well, Robert Mueller wasn't expecting that. Well, one of those companies is actually going to defend itself, and they did, and Mueller lost. He wanted to delay the process, and that now is getting underway, and that, I think, puts Mueller in a position where he's going to have to withdraw these indictments because he's not going to share this information with Russian troll farms if they really are such, like he claims.
Well, I think this is the most fascinating, most underreported story out there, right? Because it's kind of like a Law and Order moment. One of the sources I was talking to told me it was a moment where I think Mueller's team, and this team actually is being led by Jeannie Ray, and we all know who Jeannie Ray is. She's a big Clinton supporter. She maxed out all of her donations in 2015 and 2016 to Hillary Clinton. So she's in the courtroom, and all of a sudden, here comes on Wednesday the people representing this Russian company, these attorneys, and they're like, okay, we want this to go to court. We want a speedy trial. Now that opens up Robert Mueller to discovery. This is incredible. So now they're going to be opened up to discovery, and it will require the special counsel to turn over all the evidence required by law that they had collected. And that is huge.
Let me jump in because we're running out of time. Does that mean Mueller has to pull out for national security reasons, David Schoen? And Mueller never thought this was going to happen. This was a show indictment, wasn't it?
It looks like it. And the other problem he's facing is speedy trial. That's where these lawyers strategically moved in. There's a speedy trial clock running. If Mueller's not prepared, the indictment could be dismissed. He may dismiss it and re-indict, or he may convince the judge. These folks have a way of working behind the scenes, it seems.
It's unbelievable. Let me applaud both of you, and Greg Jarrett and Sebastian Gorka and Sidney Powell and Tom Fitton and so many others that have worked so hard on all of this. You guys have been amazing, and layer by layer, it's now everything you've been reporting, Sarah, we've been talking about, David, is now coming true. We couldn't do any of this without all of you and your hard work. Thank you all for being with us. We really appreciate it.